There is a yellow, sticky strip hanging in your kitchen right now. Maybe above the sink, maybe near the window. It catches maybe a dozen flies on a good day, hangs there getting darker and more embarrassing until company comes. And then you take it down and put up a new one. We have not used a fly strip in 3 generations. My name is Samuel Byler. I farm outside of Sugar Creek, Ohio, and today I am going to show you exactly how to build the same trap using nothing but a mason jar, a piece of paper, and ingredients already on your kitchen counter. No hardware store run, no electricity, 3 minutes of work. Stay with me until the end, because the last thing I am going to show you is where to put this trap. Most people build it correctly and place it in completely the wrong spot, and then decide it does not work. It works. The spot is the problem. Before we start, tell me in the comments what state you are in and how bad the flies have been this summer. I read everyone. Now let me tell you why everything you have tried is working against you. The sticky strip is passive. It has no smell. It broadcasts no signal. It just hangs there and hopes a fly drifts close enough to land on it. And your kitchen is full of things that are actively calling to the flies. Your fruit bowl, your compost bin, the recycling where the juice bottle was rinsed but not quite well enough, the drain where food collects. Every one of those things is broadcasting a smell signal that a fly can follow from 30 or 40 feet away. The sticky strip is competing with all of them and losing every single time. Electronic zappers have the same problem. Studies at the University of Delaware found that only about 4% of insects killed by typical zappers are biting or nuisance insects. The rest are moths and beetles, the things that were not bothering you. Inside your kitchen, a zapper pulls in whatever happens to be flying nearby, with no preference for the house fly circling your fruit since Tuesday. You are paying to kill the wrong things, while the actual problem keeps multiplying. My grandfather understood something about flies that nobody selling you products has any interest in explaining. A fly is not wandering randomly through your kitchen. She is hunting, following a specific chemical signal that tells her fermenting organic matter is close. Rotting fruit, fermenting sugar, decomposing vegetable scraps. That smell means food and a place to lay eggs. She can detect it from further away than you would believe. Every fly in your kitchen right now followed a smell to get there. The yellow strip has no smell. The zapper has no smell. They are asking her to come for no reason, while your compost bin broadcasts the exact signal she is built to chase. My grandfather's trap broadcasts that same signal, stronger than anything else in the room, and instead of waiting for her to accidentally get close, it calls her in deliberately and puts her somewhere she cannot get back out of. He built the first version in the spring of 1952. My father was not yet 2 years old. A clean glass jar, a paper funnel in the mouth, and a bait he had worked out the previous summer by watching what flies in the barn actually went to. Not what the hardware store said they wanted. What he watched them choose every time, without fail. I remember the morning he showed me the trap working. I was maybe 9. We walked to the kitchen windowsill before breakfast, and the surface of the liquid inside the jar was dark with flies. He let me count. I stopped somewhere past 200. Then he pointed at the sticky strip hanging above the sink. 3 flies. He did not say anything. He did not need to. Here is how to build it. Clean mason jar. Quart size works best. A piece of plain white paper. Tape, or a stapler. Roll the paper into a cone with a wide opening at the top and a small opening at the bottom, roughly the size of a pencil eraser. The cone fits down into the mouth of the jar with the narrow end pointing into the jar without touching the liquid. You want about an inch of clearance between the tip of the cone and the surface of the bait. Tape the cone so it holds its shape. Then tape the outside edge of the cone to the lip of the jar all the way around so there is no gap anywhere between the paper and the glass. No gap means no exit. That is the entire trap. 3 minutes from a flat sheet of paper to a finished, working trap. The fly enters through the wide top following the smell. She walks down the funnel toward the source, drops through the narrow opening into the jar, and cannot find her way back out through a hole the size of a pencil eraser from inside a glass jar. She flies upward, hits glass, flies upward again, hits glass. Eventually she lands on the surface of the liquid. The liquid takes her. By morning the jar is full. Now the bait. This is what separates a jar that catches a few flies from one that catches hundreds. My grandmother taught me the recipe at her kitchen table when I was 10 or 11 on a Sunday afternoon. She kept it simple because she kept everything simple. 1 cup of warm water, 2 tablespoons of brown sugar stirred in while the water is still warm, 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, half a teaspoon of dry baker's yeast, and if you have one available, a strip of overripe banana peel dropped in at the end. Dissolve the sugar in the warm water first until the water runs clear. Then let it cool to room temperature before you add the yeast. This is the step most people skip, and it is the one that determines whether the bait works at all. Hot water kills yeast. Warm water weakens it. Room temperature water lets it activate and begin fermenting within hours. Cool water only. Then add the vinegar. Drop in the banana peel. Pour the mixture into the jar until it is about 1/3 full and fit the cone into the mouth. By the second morning, the liquid will smell like overripe fruit going slightly rotten, sweet at the edge with something sour underneath. My grandmother used to say it smells like an animal sleeping on hay. That is exactly the signal a fly is programmed to find and follow. The yeast eats the sugar and releases carbon dioxide, the same gas your body produces when you breathe. To a fly navigating your kitchen by smell, that jar is broadcasting the same signal as a warm, living thing sitting in the room. She follows it to the source, enters the cone, and does not come back out. The vinegar breaks the surface tension of the liquid so she cannot stand on top of it when she lands. She sinks immediately. The banana peel amplifies the fermented fruit signal considerably. My grandmother never made the bait without one, if there were bananas in the house. Without the peel, the trap still works. With it, the trap works noticeably better. The bait stays effective for 5 to 6 days. After that, the yeast has consumed most of the sugar and the signal drops by half. Every Sunday morning, I take the jars down, dump the old bait on the compost pile, rinse with cold water, mix fresh bait, and set them back out. 20 minutes for the whole property. Every jar goes into the new week at full strength. Now, placement. This is where most people go wrong. They build the trap correctly and put it in the middle of the kitchen counter where they work. She never reaches the fruit bowl on the island, and the jar catches a few flies and they decide it is not effective. The trap is effective. The placement is fighting the trap. You are not trying to catch flies already in the middle of the kitchen. You are trying to intercept them before they reach the middle of the kitchen. The trap goes between where the flies enter and where they want to go, not in the center of the action, at the door. Flies enter a kitchen in 3 main ways: the gap under the screen door when it opens and closes, gaps around window frames that were never properly sealed, open windows without tight screens. The trap goes near those points. The windowsill directly beside the window the flies use most is the ideal position because the jar is sitting at the entry and the smell hits her before she has spread into the room looking for other food sources. She follows the strongest signal. If the jar is at the window when she enters, the jar is the strongest signal in the room before she ever gets past the sill. She never reaches the fruit bowl. She never finds the compost bin. On our farm, I keep one trap on the kitchen windowsill above the sink. One on the windowsill in the mudroom where we come in from the barn, which is where most of the flies following us from the animals try to enter the house. One near the kitchen compost bin because that corner always generates fly traffic regardless of how tight the lid is. 3 jars. The kitchen fly problem is essentially gone by the second morning. My wife noticed the difference before she knew what I had changed. She thought I had finally sealed the gap in the screen door frame. I had not. The jars were catching every fly that came through that gap before it made it across the room to where she was working. Now, the full system. The jar handles what is flying tonight. But without the rest of the system, the population rebuilds every week from outside. First piece, the compost bin. Get a bin with a genuinely tight seal and line it with a paper bag that you close before replacing the lid. The smell is contained. The flies outside cannot detect it through the sealed bin. The jar becomes the strongest signal in the kitchen rather than competing with the bin for the attention of every fly in the room. Second piece, the screen door gap. A strip of adhesive weather stripping pressed along the bottom gap takes 10 minutes to apply and costs less than $5. That gap is the main highway flies used to enter your kitchen. Warm air rising from cooking and from the fruit bowl and the compost bin moves out through that gap and flies outside follow it in. Seal the gap and fewer flies outside know to try. Third piece, timing the bait refresh. Flies are most active in the 2 hours after sunrise and the 2 hours before sunset. Set fresh bait in the evening so it is at full fermentation strength by the following morning when they are hunting hardest. The jar set Saturday evening catches the most flies Monday morning. The whole system together, 3 jars in the right spots, a sealed compost bin, and a sealed door gap, clears most of the fly problem from a kitchen in the first week. My grandfather ran this system from 1952 until the end of his life. Never went back to a sticky strip after the first summer he used the jar. My father ran the same system. I run it now, and 2 summers ago when my son turned 8, I taught him how to roll the cone and mix the bait, the same way my grandfather taught my father and my father taught me. 4 generations on the same windowsill. The yellow sticky strip has been sold in hardware stores since the early 1900s. It has never worked well enough to actually solve the problem, or people would have stopped buying new ones. They keep buying them because the alternative was never printed on a box. It does not come in packaging. It does not have a brand name. It does not generate a repeat purchase or a subscription. It is a mason jar and a piece of paper and a recipe my grandmother kept in her head because her mother taught it to her at a kitchen table in Lancaster County before either of them had ever seen a fly strip. On this channel, I try to pass along what plain people have always known and what the rest of the world is slowly coming back around to find. If that is what you come here for, subscribe and stay close. Because next time I am going to show you what we apply along the door and window frames of the barn and mudroom every spring that keeps flies from wanting to enter in the first place. One application lasts the whole season, made from something already in your kitchen. The flies that come into a building treated this way are a fraction of what enters an untreated building. My grandfather called it the first line. The jar was always the second. Tell me in the comments how many flies are in your jar the first morning after you build this. I genuinely want to know which state catches the most. I am Samuel Byler. I will see you in the next one.